Fish, we know you're in there, and we need to catch you to survive. How do we get you out of the water and onto our dinner plate in a survival situation without a modern fishing pole? Just materials from the wild, a knife, and a couple odds and ends. Well, today, it all starts with a big chunk of fatwood. Now, we've hit some epic fatwood jackpots in our lives, but it never occurred to us until just recently that maybe we could use fatwood to help us make survival fish spears. Of course, it's an incredible fire starter, but somewhere deep inside, we always knew it would come to service in some other way someday. And that day is today because it meets the exact criteria for making effective spear prongs on a survival fish spear. And what is our criteria? Well, it's got to be hard, it's got to be water resistant, and it's got to be easy to resharpen in the event that we might miss our target and dull the tips. Also, fatwood is pretty common if you're in a pine or a Doug fir forest, as we often are, and if you collect it the way we do out of old stumps, you can get an abundance of long, straight fatwood pieces that can easily be split into straight spear prongs. Now, for our main spear, we're going to need something straight, long, and not too heavy. River cane has been used for hundreds of years to make spears, and we've used it to make atlatl spears before, so I don't see any reason that it wouldn't make a perfect companion for our fatwood spear prongs. It's a pretty quick and easy process lashing the prongs to the spear, but one thing we take into careful consideration is the position of the prong tips. Experience has taught us a couple things. First of all, a wider spread will give you a better chance of hitting your target, but too wide of a spread often increases the chances for the fish wiggling off. We typically err on the side of having a tighter spread, and a couple things that we do add is a spacer so that we can adjust the spread on the fly if we need, and also a small tapered insert to the end of our spear to decrease the resistance in the water as we shoot. Okay, with our spear prongs in place, now it's time to cut up my mom's garden hose. Wait, what? Yeah, that's what we're doing here. Another classic case in my family of asking forgiveness rather than permission. All the things we've put my mom through over the years. But this time it's really for a good cause. We need a rubber hose to attach on the end of our spear to provide the speed and power necessary to penetrate the fish. Or if you don't want to use your mom's garden hose, you could just stop by your local sporting goods store. Now, one of the only things we were concerned about using prongs that were made from fatwood is missing our target and hitting the rocks behind. Fatwood is hard, but it isn't necessarily very strong. And we got a feeling that if we hit a rock straight on, it could snap a prong right in half. So we've got to resist shooting down and make sure we get ourselves down on the river bottom so we're shooting sideways, which also gives us a bigger, easier target as well. Okay, remember, don't shoot down. Don't shoot down. You gotta be kidding me. First shot broke a prong. It was just too tempting. And honestly, this happens all the time with us. We remind ourselves, wait for the good shots, don't shoot down, and then crack. It's just so hard to not get trigger happy when you've got a big lunker drifting right in front of you. Okay, lesson learned, back in the water. Hopefully we can still get one with just 2 prongs. This dive was way more successful as we got a fish right on our second shot. Now, instinctively, we point our spear up after the hit to recruit some help from gravity as our fish wiggles his way down on the spear prong. Well, power and penetration certainly was not an issue. This is one of the cleanest shots I've ever seen, and because it penetrated all the way through, it really wasn't a problem that our third prong broke off. And this lovely fish sacrificed for a good educational cause, and he'll also make a tasty meal tonight at the campfire. So there's one particular shrub that we don't talk about enough, and that's Indian plum, revered by Native Americans for its strength, density, and usefulness in spear and arrow making. We've also used it for arrows and spears and drills for friction fires. We're going to use this dead shoot we found for making spear prongs on our second spear because it'll stay sharp in the water. One of the most exciting things about making spear prongs from wood is just the convenience and the crazy amount of time and effort you can save. But not all wood will work. It has to be a hardwood, preferably dead or fire hardened so it can retain its sharpness in the water and be resharpened if needed. Indian plum can be easily resharpened as good as new, which affords us the confidence to take a bit more risk down there without the fear of forever breaking our spear tips. Indian plum is actually one of the rare woods in our area that is hard enough to be sharpened and used green, which we've actually had success with, but again, dead or fire-hardened wood will always be the better choice. Now we showed you the garden hose earlier, but of course it's more likely and convenient to just grab some at the store. When you do, we highly recommend grabbing 3/8 and 5/16 size tubing. We discovered many years ago that the power and speed of your spear will be dramatically increased by running your small tube through your larger tube before you tie it to your spear. We also like to throw small lengths of tubing into our pack when we're adventuring near water, along with a small mask or compact goggles, which are extremely light and hardly take up any space. These aren't typical items on most packing lists, but they are essential for being successful in going underwater and spearing fish in a survival situation. Okay, now it's game time. Now, why didn't I shoot right here at this whitefish? Well, I asked myself that all the way home, but after seeing the footage, I realized it's because he turned his body upstream at the last second, taking away the broadside shot, which I'm always shooting for. Shooting at an angle on a fish swimming away from you is not a high percentage shot, so I moved on to the next target, and I'm glad I did. Talk about a broadside shot. This big guy drifted right in front of me at just about eye level. This is only because I had my chest down right to the bottom of the river. This was a feisty fish, and the second he came out of the water, he flipped off. But it was a short pursuit after that, as I had already reloaded by the time he re-entered the water. Looks like there's going to be fish for two tonight at the campfire. Okay, let's get this fire started. And if you followed our content, you know how we like to do it. Flint and steel on natural uncharred material. But you've never seen us use this tinder before, and it's no secret, we have become quite obsessed with finding common, natural, uncharred tinders in the wild that'll take a spark reliably from a flint and steel. And we've now spent over a year experimenting and studying this topic, which means there will be a video coming out real soon that'll have staggering amounts of new, undiscussed tinders that we've been successful with, and I honestly can't wait to show it to you. But first things first, let's eat these fish. Cooking on a rock. There's just something great about that. Or how about just throwing the fish right onto the coals? It might seem like we're ruining our fish, but this was common practice for the Native Americans that lived in these parts, and we really can't argue with the results. These fish are referred to as sucker fish, and for whatever reason, they've earned a bad reputation in the fishing community. Maybe it's because the meat is soft and a bit of a challenge to separate from the bones, but who cares? We're talking about wilderness survival, and on this night, these fish tasted perfect. Wilderness Strong is all about up-close, detailed, educational videos covering bushcraft, nature, ethnobotany, and wilderness survival. The best way to support us is by hitting the thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, and leaving us a comment. Thanks for watching.